Hi everyone, Chag Sameach over here. We can do a special edition over here. You can see I've got the back box of matzot ready. Over here, matzah shmura over here, all for Pesach. It's got a kosher Mahedrin stamp on it, Rabbanut, Yerushalayim also. Over here we've got stacked up and very, very interesting. We are going to do a special edition here talking about a Pesach Seder guide also. Very much adapting this from Rabbi Eli Mansoor. Rabbi I listened to very, very much, must have listened to thousands and thousands of his incredible Torah lectures over there. And the matzot is already a huge, huge box over here, just in time for Pesach. Just bought it over the last few days. I want to go through this. It's a phenomenal a guide, I would say, for Pesach in this special edition over here today. I think we did something similar on Hanukkah, albeit it was we used a different manual over here, but I think this very much is good because we want to have a powerful Sedar Night. I think it's very, very important for all of us. Come make it most amazing night and engage our children inside of it, or whoever we are going to be with, to make it an engaging and thought-provoking and night where we feel like we're leaving Mitzrayim. And with the year that we've had, it very much is. I think everyone can echo this pretty much. Okay. So what does the word Sedar mean? Sedar means an order. As naturally see, we go from Kadesh, Urchatz, and so on and so forth, all the way to Niritzah. So there's a specific order to the night that it's said. So what is it? There's Kadesh, Urchatz, Karpas Yachatz, Magid, Rachsa, Motzi Matzah, Mara, Korech, Shulchan Orech, Tzafun, Barech, Halel, Niritzah. Niritzah naturally is where we finish off the night with all the songs, the famous songs of Had Gadya and so on and so forth. So what can we say about it? It's an order where naturally we see contains with it many of the different laws and the different traditions. One thing we would add within regards to this, what's important about the night is the concept of Vigadta Lebanecha, where the father is teaching the son over here. And that's why there's a whole point of engaging the children in questions, thought-provoking questions throughout the night. That is something very, very important. Who's going to be the head of leading the Seder itself? Is naturally the father. That's one thing that we've got to say. The father's in charge of everything. He's got to know all the halachot with regards to the different measurements of how much wine do we have to drink in each of the 4 different occasions, how much matzah we eat each time, specifically Amara respectively. So Erev Pesach, what do we do on Erev Pesach? This might be brought into a 2-part session over here, so I'll just tell you that in advance, but very much I think it's good we do it. So Erev Pesach, we know the Gemara relates that twice a year, Rabbi Akiva came into the Bet Midrash and told everyone to stop their learning and to go home. This was what happened. Once was on Erev Yom Kippur, so that they could fulfill the mitzvah of Suda, Mafseket, naturally do, before Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur itself, before they are fasting. Also Erev Pesach, where they will go, so that the fathers will go home to ensure that the children would sleep and be well rested, because naturally you want the kids to be asking questions throughout the night, to be well educated throughout the night. They're very, very important things also. And they need to, one has to see that the kids are having a nice nap in the afternoon, so that they will be able to ask questions and thought-provoking questions all throughout the Seder night itself, which is very, very important. So that's why we have to make sure that the kids naturally sleep on Erev Pesach also. And also we know that the women, they work very hard also, so they should be well rested also, because they've been preparing for the Seder, they've been organizing everything, cooking in many of the cases. Naturally, Shulchan Aruch will entail a further a lot of preparation within regards to food. The Shulchan Aruch also writes, Yesadar Shulchano Mebiyod Yom. So one thing that you could do is prepare the table. One must set the table ahead of time, so that when the men will come home naturally from the Bet Knesset in night time, the table is ready and Kiddush can be recited immediately, so that children will remain awake for the Seder. Also, Rav Yosef Kare Maran also writes, Yahin Makom Moshavo. What does this mean? Prepare your seat ahead of time, leaving sufficient space on your left for haseva. Naturally, haseva is when we recline while we are eating. Okay, so now let's go through the Seder itself. For example, let's look at the different aspects of it. First of all, there's what do we call a cup in Hebrew, friends? We call it a kos. So it's actually interesting. Kos, naturally, you should do on the optimum is to do on a red wine. I said the blessing before for this. For each of the 4 cups, the halacha says to fill the cup to the top and to drink at least a majority of this cup respectively, more than half. But if it is a very large cup, more than half is naturally quite a lot of wine. Therefore, when choosing a cup, one has to make sure that it holds 86 grams, but it isn't too much bigger than that. So naturally the cup itself, the kos as we call it, should be glass and not plastic. But there's no preference to a glass with a stem over a flat one naturally. It's preferable to use dry red wine in general, but naturally people can use grape juice also, especially in the case of children and women, because it might be difficult for them to drink dry red wine, too much of it. If a person is sensitive to drinking wine and it will prevent him from doing other mitzvot properly throughout the Seder, he should drink a kos of grape juice for the first 3 kosot using the same shiur as if it were wine, and he can use wine for the 4th cup, since most people go to sleep soon after the 4th cup naturally, and by that stage most mitzvot have run its course properly. The types of matzot. So Chacham ben Zion, he didn't like specifically to use machine matzah for Leila Seder itself respectively. Therefore, handmade matzah shmura with a good hechsher should be ideally used on the Sedar night itself. That's what Chacham ben Zion says. Some also have the minhag over here of using hard matzah, but for those who don't have this minhag, soft matzah is also acceptable, as long as it's got to be a good hechsher. In either case, the box should be marked avodat yad, handmade on it. It's got to be handmade, and there's got to be that siman itself respectively. Okay, when and how to recline? That's another common question that is that's asked. Naturally, we should know this also because we know we recline while we're eating or drinking the wine, naturally on the Seder night. The Rabbi determines that since people no longer eat as was once common practice, namely close to the floor on the couch. I know that my family, I think in Iran, only 50, 60 years ago, they ate on the floor using cushions and stuff like that. It's therefore no longer, let's say, obligatory to recline, causing us discomfort instead of feeling like kings, because nowadays if one reclines, it hasn't got that kingship material to it, let's just say. Marana, however, rejects this opinion and considers reclining over here mandatory even today, when we used to eating sitting up in chairs. We recline while drinking the arba kosot, naturally, the 4 cups of wine, naturally, and while eating the matzah. If one does not recline as he drinks one of the 4 cups of wine, he hasn't fulfilled his obligation and must drink another cup over here. That's what's reported over. So before making kiddush, the Baal Habayit, the person in charge of the, let's say, the Seder night, should make an announcement reminding everyone to recline while drinking, and keeping in mind that reclining, haseva, as we call that naturally, is always to the left side also. Each person should concentrate on reclining to his own left and not be confused, naturally, by the people opposite him who are seemingly reclining to the right when obviously they're not. One is, for safety purposes, to avoid the sakana of food or drink being digested by the windpipe, which might happen if we lean to the right. There's that worry if you're leaning to the right that it could be have a dangerous tint towards it. The other reason is practical. Since most people are, let's just say, right-handed or right hands to eat, reclining to the left makes their right hands available for holding the cup or the matzah naturally. So it's a practical thing also. The rabbis decided that even someone that's, let's say, left-handed, he should recline to the left despite the inconvenience for them, in order to avoid the aforementioned sakana, the danger situation. We say Chacham ben Zion also defines haseva as leaning 45 degrees to the left, it must be. And one must be leaning on something such as the back of the chair or the table itself respectively, and not simply leaning to the side in midair with no support. One should leave naturally enough room for this when preparing the seating. Also, it's debatable, let's say, whether or not women should recline respectively. Some opinions maintain that a woman shouldn't do haseva unless she is considered an isha hashuva, an important woman. This is according to some opinions. However, the Shulchan Aruch says that all women are hashuvot, naturally important and significant, and therefore they should all recline over here. Setting the Seder plate over here. naturally, what is Seder plate? Naturally, I did a video only yesterday, recording over what contains in the Seder plate. So the Bala Bayit comes home and he has to set up the plate itself, the Ke'ara as we call it in Hebrew. The various items must be set on the plate, not directly on the table. It doesn't matter whether the plate is plastic, metal or china, or if it's marked with where each item should be placed. Naturally, we see some very fancy plates respectively. Also, the Ben Ishai says to place the 3 matzot at the top of the plate, the shank bone on the right, an egg on the left, the maror respectively in the middle, the haroset on the bottom right, and the celery for karpas on the bottom left, and the endives for the chaseret on the very bottom in the center. Naturally, the Machzor, the Haggadah itself, has a picture showing where each item is to be placed in the Ka'ara. I'm not sure if there's different customs for different communities itself specifically and what they are here, but just everyone should look at their Matzor respectively. We only need 1 Seder plate per table, and it remains in front of the person, the Ba'al HaBayit, throughout the entire Seder night itself. Here's a short explanation regarding the 3 matzot on the Ka'ara. The top matzah and half of the middle matzah are used for motzi matzah, naturally, that part of the Seder itself. The other half of the middle matzah is saved for the afikoman at the end of the Seder. The bottom matzah is used for korech. Our minhag is to begin the Seder by singing the sequence of the Seder. Naturally, we sing Kadesh, Uchatz, Karpa, Atziyachatz, Magid, Raksa, Motzi, Matzah. I'm just looking at a question at the moment. I usually do these videos live on YouTube, but over here I'm just doing it on Facebook specifically. Does the Ba'al HaBayit himself need to set the Seder plate, or can it be done on his behalf? That's a good question. I think I just mentioned it. Naturally, we did say that when he comes home from the Beit Knesset itself, from the synagogue, the whole table itself should be ready respectively for coming in. But I would assume, I think we hopefully will touch on it by the end of this thing, or I'll have to double check on that. Okay, so now we are on the first section, the Kadesh, naturally. The Kadesh section. Before reciting Kiddush, we cover this plate itself. Just as we cover the Halah on a regular Friday night, we make Kiddush, which is the first of the 4 kosot, naturally 4 cups of wine. Everybody should have a cup in front of him, and the halacha requires the cup to be rinsed inside and outside before using it for the first cup, naturally. And the strict letter of the law doesn't require rinsing it again before each of the other kosot of the cups itself. Kabbalah does recommend this, as does the Ben Ishai also, Chacham Yosef Chaim respectively. In any case, before Kiddush is recited, the cup must be rinsed and then filled with wine. Since on this night we are free, we do not fill the cup for ourselves, rather someone else fills it up for us respectively. I was actually listening to a Rabbi Eli Mansoor shir on this. It's a phenomenal one. I recommend everyone. I think it's about 95 minutes online, I think, on his website, and on other places also. It's halachot regarding Pesach, but it's a phenomenal shir on it. I would recommend everyone to listen to it. Okay, so going back to it. So each person can fill another person's cup. So one should fill someone else's cup of it. After the cup is filled, we do mezigah. What is this? We pour 3 drops of water into the cup. The poskim say that one must drink 86 grams of wine. The wine should be drunk in 1 shot and not sipped leisurely. Okay, that's important to know. If you cannot drink it, let's say, in 1 shot, he may drink it in a few gulps, but quickly. So it's got to be drank quickly in a quick succession, making sure to finish it within a few minutes. So there is that window of time. If he can't drink the entire content of the cup, the poskim says he has to drink at least the majority of the cup, the majority of the wine in the cup. But of course, it's preferable to drink all of it. Also, the Ba'al HaBayit should make an announcement before Kiddush that one may not talk during the Kiddush. I know my father-in-law, for example, it reminds us all when we were there that, in his Seder table, that one should be concentrating on the meal and not to talk just leisurely over here in the middle of the thing. And one should just concentrate, have kavanah to say amen to the bracha. If someone does say baruch hu v'shemo B'diavad, it's okay. So one should not get agitated if someone is going to say that. But L'chayla, it's Lechatzchila, it's better not to say Baruch Hu Uvashmo. The Baal Habayit should also announce that after Kiddush, he will be reciting the bracha of Shechianu, and that everyone should have in mind that the bracha should include the other mitzvot to be performed tonight, matzah, maror, and the 4 cups of wine, on which we do not recite Shechianu separately, and are all included in the Shechianu of Kiddush. Some say that this Shechianu even includes mitzvah of Sfirat HaOmer over here. The Kadesh must pronounce the words of the Kiddush clearly. Remember, one thing I'll add is there's in Chutz Haaretz there's 2 nights of Leila Seder over here. So the second night naturally will be featuring Sfirat HaOmer itself respectively. The Kadesh must pronounce the words of the Kiddush clearly. Have in mind that the bracha of HaGefen is not only for the first cup, but also for the second. And the minhag of the Sephardim is not to make another gefen before the second cup. In fact, one should have intention that the bracha of gefen made on the first cup includes any cup, not only the first and second one, respectively. Everyone stands also for the Kiddush, naturally. Someone should hold the cup from the bottom in both of his hands over there, and handing the Mekadesh the cup itself, naturally. The Mekadesh should receive the kos with both his hands and then transfer the cup to the right hand. According to Rabbeinu Ha'ari, the cup is held in the fingertips. Then the Baal Habayit performs the mizigah, pouring 3 drops of water from another glass with his right hand. As he pours the 3 drops, he says, Ma'aleh yadenu mibir otecha. Don't add more than 3 drops of water, since our wine is already diluted, and diluting it anymore might change the bracha from a hagafen to sha'akol, and we don't want that. Kiddush and Shechianu are recited naturally. Everyone reclines, as we said before, the 45 degrees to the left, leaning on something as the back of the chair or the table, and everyone drinks the wine. Any wine that spills in the process doesn't count as part of this specific amount. And if you didn't drink the proper amount because the wine spilled on your shirt or elsewhere, drink more wine until you have completed that specific amount, the shir itself. Now, as I said at the beginning, we are going to divide this up into probably 2 classes. So let's talk about Urchas and Karpats and Yachatz, and then we will do maybe in the next session about Magid. Okay. After drinking Urchas and Karpas, after drinking the Kiddush wine, the Baal Habayit should explain to everyone what comes next. So Urchatz, what does that mean? We wash our hands without making a beracha. We wash because we are about to dip the karpas, the celery, which has been dipped into salt water. The Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, writes that any time, not only during the Seder, we eat something that has been dipped into one of the 7 liquids, one of them being water, we must first wash our hands without making a bracha on this washing. We wash our hands just as we wash Netilat Yadayim for bread, 3 times on the right and 3 times on the left hand. Then we are quiet until we take a small piece of celery. Naturally, it's got to be less than a kazayit, and we have to make sure it has obviously no bugs or insects on it. We dip the celery into the salt water, and the head of the household makes a bracha or berei pri adama, naturally. Have in mind that this bracha of Adama is also for the maror that we will be eating actually at a later stage also. We do not answer Baruch Hu V'Shemo, we just answer Amen and eat the celery, the karpas, naturally. According to the halacha, one can use any vegetable upon which a bracha or berei pri adama is recited, except for maror. But we specifically use celery because our minhag follows Rabbeinu Ari, karpas. What does karpas spell over here? It's a Chav Reish Pei and the Samach over here. So if you spell it backwards, it's symbolizing the 600,000 Jews who were in servitude. Or you can we do not have to recline when eating the karpas over here. The minhag in Syria, as Rabbi Eli Mansoor says in Chalab, naturally great Torah community I had once upon a time, was not to recline. Leave at least some of the celery on the plate also. All this must be explained before everyone leaves the table to wash for Urchatz, because after washing we don't talk. Let's look at the Yachatz, and then we will we'll continue in the next session in the next couple of days. Yachatz, what is that? We raise the 3 matzot, naturally. Each one of the matzot corresponds to one of the avot. There's Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And also to Kohen, Levi, and Israel. And the Baal Habayit himself, the head of the household, will take the middle matzah and break it into two. He will break it into two pieces, one big and the other small. Making a dalet and a vav out of the matzah is not a halacha. It's a Kabbalah, and it's very hard to do so. So one shouldn't have to be worried if it doesn't look like the dalet and the vav itself. Instead, make sure that the intention is for the vav to be the bigger piece and the dalet to be the smaller one. The smaller piece is placed right back in between the two whole matzah. Sorry about that. The connection's not the best over here, so I hope you didn't miss on anything that I said. So the small piece is okay. The small piece is placed right back in between the two whole matzot where the middle matzah was originally. The big piece is placed in the matzah cover. And naturally, we're talking about the Syrian minhag here because this is notes of Rabbi Eli Mansoor, is that the Baal Habayit places it over his left shoulder and says, Misharatom sururot besiv lotam al shikmam ubnei Yisrael asu kidvar Moshe minjeh. Or okay. Where are you coming from? Where are you going to? Yerushalayim, etc. That is this. Hare zeh halifati. Hare zeh kabarati, hare zeh temurati. Then what does he do? Then he gives this naturally to the next person who follows the next thing. The minhag is then to give the afikoman to one of the children who goes off and hides it. This is in order to keep the children interested and awake until the end of the Seder. Later we ask the children naturally to bring it back and we offer them a prize. And Rabbi Mansoor actually advises that an adult or an older child accompany the child hiding the afikoman matzah, so it's not hidden in a place where it might be destroyed, or in case that the child falls asleep, which can happen, before we need it, and the secret of its hiding place might go to sleep with him over here. So I think we're going to leave it off here, over here, this session over here. I'd like to dedicate this refuah shlema. A few people got injured today, I think, from an attack here in Israel. I would like to dedicate it refuah shlema to them, and many people, just anyone that's been injured recently. Also, please refuah shlema, and Bez Hashem, this hatzacha for all our precious chayalim out there, and Am Yisrael Chai, and please don't watch your space for the next session that's coming up within regards to this. Wishing you all a great night and take care.